Hello, hello. So I decided to do something different this quarter. As you may know, each quarter I set up a different map book for to cover the following 3 months. Back in January, I hosted a Zoom workshop, which was a lot of fun for moms to come and set up their notebooks for quarter one. And this time I figured, let's try a video recording. So many moms told me that they wanted to attend, but they were, busy. And I feel like this is more efficient than watching other moms on Zoom as they slowly go through the process in more of like a workshop style. So I hope that this is helpful for you to see how I go about setting up my quarter two notebook. So when you're seeing this, it is March 2023. So I am wrapping up March and moving on to quarter two, which is April, May, and June. So I like to, at the end of each quarter, close out the notebook from the month before. I keep it handy because you would be surprised how many times you actually need to reference it. But take a look here. I have my quarter one table of contents. And I always go through at the end of the quarter and make sure this is all up to date. Notice that I don't have things like weekly plans or daily plans in my table of contents. I just do that because I feel like it's unnecessary. I very rarely go back and look for a specific day to see what my list was for that day. And if I did, honestly, I would just take the time to flip through to find it. It would be pretty quick. I really only put things here that I want to come back to later. I make sure that I add to any lists that I need to finish up throughout the whole notebook. So I'll literally go through page by page and make sure, okay, everything's kind of closed out. Any action items have been moved forward. And then finally, and I just started doing this, so this is more of an advanced strategy, but I've started taking brightly colored sticky notes and flagging any pages that I feel like I'll want to refer to again in the future. Those are mostly things like any business meetings that I have or any big project kind of brainstorms that I do. If I'm like, I know I'm going to come back to this at some other point in 2023, I flag that with a sticky note. So if you're watching this, you may want to pause and go back into your quarter one notebook if you have one, and take the time to go through and close that out before we move on to quarter two. All right, so your quarter two notebook. There's nothing quite like a fresh notebook to get the quarter started. So I've mentioned this before, but I actually set up my notebooks at the beginning of the year in January. So I set up four. I set up quarter one, two, three, and four. And that way, kind of the preliminary work is done. I have more time in January to just go through and set it up. It takes probably 2 hours to do, and you absolutely don't have to do it that way. It's just something that I've started doing over the years. So the first thing that you want to do when you first open your notebook is start your table of contents. I strongly recommend that you label this by like quarter two or April, May, June, or whatever makes sense to you on the table of contents page. Because it's your first page, once you have a stack of these notebooks like I do, you want to be able to open it very quickly and see, okay, this is when this is taking place. And then you'll notice that I just started my table of contents. I've got a spot for my future log, my monthly logs, my spring joy list, and my April reflection wheel. I don't even have the page numbers down yet. I haven't gotten that far, but that I will do sort of as I go, as I get going in April. So my next list, when I flip the page, is my maybe someday list. That's where I put anything that I want to think about, but isn't necessarily like an action item. It's not pictured here, but I also have a later in 2023 list where I keep track of anything that I want to do in 2023, but I'm not really sure when. After my future lists, I have my monthly lists. So here you'll see my April 2023 list. And honestly, because I've been doing this for so long, I just copy it from last year's list. There's sometimes some changes, but more or less it's pretty consistent year to year. So you'll notice each month I do a marriage check-in with my husband. We have so many books in our house that we rotate them quarterly. So I have a note to switch that. A reminder to do my reflection wheel. We've got the Easter holiday that my family celebrates, our dog's birthday, our dating anniversary. Those are just little things that our family does, our family traditions that I want to not forget about. And then I do a pretty extensive family yearbook every year. And in order to keep on top of that, I do it monthly. I organize it monthly. So I have reminders for the end of the month to put that there. So this is kind of my starting point throughout the month. It'll be, my daughter will get invited to a birthday party. And so I'll add to this list and say, so-and-so's birthday party, card, present, just as a reminder. So this is a very fluid list, but this just gets me started with the things that I know are going to happen. Here you'll see my May and June 2023 lists. I'm not going to walk through every single thing with you, but if you're curious about anything, feel free to ask in the comments and I am happy to share. All right, one of the last things that I make sure that I include in my quarter two notebook is the quarterly reflection. So I flip all the way to the end of the notebook. This is the last kind of spread in the notebook. And on the left-hand page, I write things I'm excited that I accomplished this quarter. And on the right-hand page, I write things I'm looking forward to accomplishing next quarter. And this is where I take, I don't know, like 30 minutes at the end of every quarter to just kind of list out all that I've done. I strongly believe that as moms, we do not give ourselves enough credit for all the things that we do. And so it's so nice at the end of the quarter to sit down and look at your calendar and just kind of pat yourself on the back for all of the things that you accomplished. We are so busy getting to the next thing, getting to the next thing, getting to the next thing, that we rarely stop to appreciate how far we've come. So I really love this process. I'll get into it more in a future video, but just so you have a sense of where that goes in the notebook. And then finally, I include my joy list. So I do seasonal joy lists. I will link a blog post and a YouTube video in the video description that explains more about the joy list if you're curious. But every season I have sort of different little things that just make me really happy during that season. Spring I live in New England, so it's when a lot of things are blooming, getting outside. We get a few 60-degree days, so that means sunroof open, music up loud. Just putting those reminders in so that when I'm feeling sort of that spiral start or just kind of in a funk, I can just flip to my joy list, remind myself of something I can do to reset, get myself in a high vibe state, and hit the ground running. That's completely optional. It's just something that I do. And if you've never done it before, you may want to try it and see how it feels for you. So once you have set up all of those pages, now is the time to sort of fill in your lists. So I would suggest getting out your calendar. My husband and I use a Google Calendar, and I go through each month and I write down anything that I need to make sure that I do. Again, things like the dog licenses in June, those come up every year, but it's nice to have them on this list because otherwise I'll forget to do them. So going through, if you have any weddings or baby showers, bridal showers, any events, any work things, you can include all of those here, anything that you want to complete in the month of June. And then finally, I do a notebook reference, which is where I go back into my previous notebooks and move anything forward. So if you did a quarter one notebook, it could be going there and saying, okay, is there anything I didn't finish in quarter one that has to actually happen, and moving those forward. But also you can look back at past years, and see if there's anything that you're forgetting. That's what I do every year when I set up. And then of course, moving everything forward so that nothing falls in between the cracks. That's kind of the purpose of the notebook, is pulling things forward from the previous quarter to make sure that they don't get forgotten. So finally, I also go through and I number the pages of my notebook. That makes my table of contents a lot easier to navigate. I honestly do that when my kids are at jujitsu practice and I'm sitting in the stands there watching, and I just number the pages. I can be literally talking to another mom and watching my kids and numbering the pages. Some nights I do it while I'm watching Netflix. It's super easy. It's actually kind of therapeutic. And I'll do 20, 25 pages at a time, just number them out. So that's quick and easy. And then I also have a reflection wheel. So in each notebook, I do this monthly. So in each notebook, there are 3 reflection wheels. I will actually write the page and then I go ahead and tape this insert in. As you can see, that's printed from the computer. I tape it into my notebook, and I have a future video coming up. Keep your eye out for that. That really goes into detail about my reflection wheel and sort of what goes into it and what is below the action or the reflection wheel that you can't see just on this notebook page here. Okay, mama, so you did it. You set up your quarter 2 notebook. How does it feel? So I want you to take a moment to think about what your goal is for your map book this quarter. What do you want it to do for you? And then how can you use it to be more proactive? It's important to be honest with yourself here. There have been years where I just haven't been dependent on it. I leave it at home when I'm going, to a doctor's appointment where I know I'm going to wait. and then I get frustrated that, oh, I'm like writing all these notes down on a sticky note. Like, what could help you to use this tool to the best of your ability? So just think on that as you move forward. And as always, I would love it if you would join me in my private Facebook group. I drop some free coaching and some resources and run, book ideas by this group. So I would love to have you join us. You can go ahead and just search Sharon Legier Coaching on Facebook and you will find it. It's also listed below in the video description. So I hope this video was helpful. If it was, give it a big thumbs up and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss next week's video. Have a great day, Mama.